My Gavan and Melanine, and well met indeed. I am Arake Galadirthan, the head of the modding team behind Divide and Conquer, and welcome back to Divide and Conquer as we carry on with another faction overview, this time for Divide and Conquer, the Realm of Imladris. Now, before I begin, two things to mention. Number one, yesterday I did a video about stakes. The date is currently the 28th of January 2017. But yesterday I did a video about stakes and console commands and testing out my new microphone, and the sound quality was a bit poor. However, numerous ways, little bits of fiddling around with my computer and just general positioning of the microphone have erased all of my concerns, and I'm now thrilled with the end product, as I'm hoping you will also be when you hear this video. So that's the first thing to talk about. Secondly, as I also mentioned in that video, in the Khazad-dûm episode 15 video, I did a poll about Patreon and giving and ways for people to give money if they wished to. And there was overwhelming support for that. And so in the stakes video, I said I'd set up a Patreon. People could go there if they wanted to. And I would only talk about it in this video and the following 4 campaign videos. And that is what I shall do. So this video just is essentially as well a little message to you all that I have set up that Patreon, as many people had hoped and many people suggested, and that's now available. What I did just want to touch on though is if you wanted to give, this is very much against Patreon because obviously they take a cut of whatever you give, but if you do want to just give one payment, which I personally that's what I would do were I supporting a YouTuber, rather than a payment every single month. All you need to know is that Patreon takes the money that you've pledged, in inverted commas, it takes it out on the first day of every month. So if you want to only give one donation, then all you need to do is submit your pledge, whenever that might be, and then on about the 3rd or 4th day of the next month, and I mean that literally, so like the 3rd of the next month. So say you gave a pledge today, the 28th of January, although you're watching this on the 29th. So say you gave a pledge today on the 29th. If you wanted that to be a one-off, then on the 4th of February, you need only go onto Patreon and delete your pledge. And then essentially it's only given that once. And I wanted to make that absolutely clear because I personally would only ever do it once. I wouldn't do a monthly rolling thing. But as I say, I don't expect any of you to do it. It's just I've had enough requests to do it, so I've set it up. And if you want to, that feature is there. It will never give those people anything special. It will always just be a if you wish to. So, with that out of the way, let's crack on with the Realm of Imladris. Now, so the Realm of Imladris are an interesting one. We'll get onto that in a moment with tips and difficulty. But if we start off with the size of your domain, as you can see, you only start with Imladris. That is your only city, the actual city of Imladris itself. And in terms of starting armies, you don't have too many. You've got this garrison here, which contains a couple of units of Tulkas' Faithful, which are very good. A couple of units of Sword Gwendi, a couple of units of Bow Gwendi, and then a Dunedain Warden Battalion. So your army isn't particularly large, your domain isn't particularly large, which can work against some people. Some people do struggle and they find that quite difficult. But if we move on to then, who are your unique generals and whatnot? Well, both Eladan, Elrahir, and Elrond himself, although this is somewhat open to debate because some people are really moaning about it, they all currently have the Noldorin Guard unit. And note that it's Noldorin. I was doing a video for, Rise of Mordor, and they called it Nodorian with an A, and I'm pretty sure it's Noldorin. But if I am wrong, then do let me know. But they've got Noldorin Guard, and the Noldorin Guard are arguably one of the best units in the game. There's a big full stop after that sentence. So they are remarkably good, and all 3 of them have this bodyguard. So the Noldorin Guard have a 13 missile attack with standard bows. They have range, the Rangers have more missiles than Rangers, exceptional accuracy. Their melee attack is 25. That is unbelievable. They're 42 defense. They are absolute beasts. They are monsters. If you're struggling to win with Imladris with those 3 units at game start, then you maybe you want to read up about battle advice, because they're basically a win ticket. If you gathered all 3 of those together in one army, you could take down any city in the Misty Mountains at the start without any trouble. So I wouldn't advise you do that, because otherwise it becomes too easy. So obviously your leader is Lawmaster Elrond. Note, not King or High King. He didn't claim that moniker. He took Lawmaster is the closest we can get. So Lawmaster Elrond. Your capital is Imladris itself, or Rivendell. And of course that is where your diplomat comes from. I believe from the last homely house, yeah, which makes sense. So that's where you train your diplomat as well. So Rebel expansion then. Well, we're already at turn 1 or turn 2. So your rebel expansion options clearly are Camath Bryn, which is a big one, or you can head south and take Anon El Rod, which means Gate of the Mountain. which is your gateway into Ost-in-Ethel, the town of the elves. You've also, sorry, I completely forgot. I'll come on to Dawn and Austin in a moment. But so your rebel expansion is rather limited, but you've only really got Camath Bryn and Anon Enorod are your two nearest. However, if you do make your way through the Misty Mountains lands, or indeed through Camath Bryn, you can make it to Morvatarth and maybe beat them to it, but it's very, very tricky. And of course, your ultimate goal is to get Ost-in-Ethel as fast as you can. So just coming back to your starting domain, in this nice little elven fort, courtesy of Elite Dwarf, you have got Dawn and Austin. And that is his name. And he is a unit that has your general bodyguard. So Eldarinway nobles are your general standard bodyguard. Note they're terribly small size. They're remarkably small number, but overall they're outrageous. Even with only 10 men, they are a phenomenal cavalry unit, and they look really cool as well, so that's always a win-win. And he's got a couple of units of Quendi, 1 bow and 1 sword. And so that's another addition to your starting army. So neighbours and diplomacy then, well, of course you start next to the Misty Mountains. It goes without saying, they're right there. They will also come knocking on your door straight away. You're one of their key enemies. Further to the west, to the east, west, yeah, are the Northern Dunedain. Fenris-Druinen is their capital. They also have the small village of Tirthuin and Amun-Sul, but they rarely take Camath Bryn, as many people have said, because there's a lot of rebel trolls in this region, as it is the Troll Shores, a region famed for trolls. But in terms of actual diplomacy, your allies are the Northern Dunedain and, of course, the Grey Havens of Linden, far, far, far to the west. And you start at war with both Misty Mountains and Angmar. Now, Angmar are away to the north and are very unlikely to trouble you, it has to be said. They really are unlikely to make it down there. The Misty Mountains normally take Morvatarth. You or the Misty Mountains will take Camath Bryn. And Angmar, the closest they'll come is Nothfaraclaw. So they're not likely to be too much trouble. So then on to economy and buildings, well, your elves. So in terms of the towns, there are no restrictions. You can go right up to the largest town size, but you cannot upgrade any castles. None whatsoever. So do bear that in mind before you take a castle. So in terms of economy, you actually have a lot of potential to make a lot of good money because you get no restrictions. Save for you do not get highways. You're not a faction that gets highways, so you don't get that third tier road structure. So do bear that in mind. Economy-wise, it's very good to try and get Ost-in-Ethel as fast as possible because it is a city, and it's already slightly elven, which does help, 47. So it's easy to make that into a recruitment centre and indeed a monetary centre. So then in terms of scripts, what scripts do Imladris get? Well, this is the script section, but really it's scripts and gameplay mechanics. So the only actual scripts are the Garrison script and Glorfindel. So the garrison script kicks in Imladris only, so if you is the only location you'll get a garrison. Although I say this in every video, if you take any of the currently rebel regions that you can see dotted around the map, if you take any of those regions and upgrade the town there one time, then you'll get a garrison there as well. Or will you? No, I think I removed it for all elves. No, I'm lying to you. The elves only get a garrison in Imladris. Or should you take Mithlond, you'll get it there as well. Should you take Caras Gallathon, you'll get it there. If you take Dol Guldur, you'll get it there. And if you take Therrandwill's Halls, stuttering over my words there, you'll get it there too. Those are the only locations that the elves get a garrison. So do bear that in mind. Now the Glorfindel script just kicks in, I believe, about turn 40 odd, something like that. And Glorfindel spawns with a unit of, I believe, Eldarinway Cavalry. He is an outrageously powerful general, and if you haven't already basically won by the time he arrives, you won't struggle when he does arrive, so he is very useful to you. Now in terms of gameplay mechanics, the elves do get the advantage of the Dunedain through the Dunedain Outpost. Now you can build this in a few locations. You share it with Bree, so it's mostly places within Bree. Notable places are Northern and Southern Tharbad. Amun-Sul if you took Amun-Sul, but obviously you don't. Northern do not have that. If you take Mengelin, I'm pretty sure you can get it there as well. It's a few places dotted around you can get this outpost, and it allows you, as you can see, to train a unit of Wardens and a unit of Scouts. Now, do bear in mind that there are changes already coming into these faction overview videos that are different from the game you're currently playing if you're using 1.2. So in the future version, whenever 2.0 comes out, the Dunedain Cavalry have been changed to Scouts. But in your current 1.2 version, on the release date of this video, 29th of January 2017, you got Cavalry, but it is now Scouts. But it's a nice little feature. You get a couple of units of Dunedain to bolster your army because, as we all know, the elves have really slow recruitment and replenishment. There are 17 turns before the barracks event between training Bow Quendi and Sword Quendi, and they're your basic entry-level militia units. There are 25 turns for the Tulkas Faithful, so you're a slow training army and nation. And on top of that, if that's not bad enough, your army is really expensive. 35 soldiers in the Noldorin Guard, and they cost 582 upkeep. The challenge, in inverted commas, of the Imladris campaign is balancing your money, not beating your enemies. Beating your enemies is a given. Nobody in the world, in this game, not any one of these factions, can stand up to the might of Imladris. Hands down. There's just no two ways about that. If the dwarves really get into the full swing of things, they might give you a run for your money, but you'll still beat them to the finish line. So there's no one that beats the elves in terms of raw stat for stat damage. Now, as we say, like, the dwarves overall are more defensive, but on a 1-to-1 basis, the elves have the best unit in almost every single category. So they've got the best archer. The best sort of mainstream archer in Imladris. You've got the best infantry in Imladris. You've got the best pikemen in Imladris. You've got the best cavalry. You've got outrageous bodyguards. Everything is good, which is why I think it's easy. So those are key features. The other thing with Imladris that everyone always bangs on about is the guild in Ostin Ethil, the Gwaith I Meardain, which means the Jewelsmith Guild. Is it Meardain? I'm pretty sure it's Gwaith I Meardain. Anywho, this is a guild which initially at game start is ruined in Ostin Ethil, and once you retake the city you need to upgrade it. This will then allow you to upgrade your units to the highest possible blacksmithing level that the elves get, and it will allow you to train the famous Smiths of Eregion. Sorry for the long gap there. My door has a sign on it, and they still enter anyway. Where was I? Smiths of Eregion. So you get the Smiths of Eregion, but in order to upgrade the guild you need to build a lot of blacksmiths, and initially you need to build them in Ostin Ethil. You get the biggest bonus towards the guild if you build them in Ostin Ethil, but if you build them just anywhere in your realm you'll get them as well. So the just building blacksmith works towards the oh dear, my keyboard's just jotted down. Just building blacksmith works towards the guild. The guild works it works in a point system. So at the game start, for example, you might have 100 points towards upgrading the guild, and you might need to reach 500. And building each blacksmith might give you 10 points, for example. That's an argument's sake kind of example. And the numbers aren't actually like that, but that is how it works. You've just got to get past the threshold. So when we get questions after question after question of how do I do it, how do I do it, how do I upgrade this guild, how do I upgrade this guild, and the answer is just build more blacksmiths. Also is to note, I believe that it's about turn 40 that the count for all guilds starts going down by 1 per turn. So if you stop building blacksmiths, then every turn is actually working against you. But you can get the guild, you just have to persevere, you just have to stick at it. And it will work, trust me. Right, so what map changes have there been since 0.52? Well, of course, there's been the introduction of both Dol Bryn and Anon Enorod. Both of those did not exist in the last faction overview video, which is linked below. And of course, I believe I put an end screen at the end. I didn't do that last week, did I need to do that? So Anon Enorod and both Dol Bryn are new, and they both help out the Misty Mountains, rather unfortunately. Additionally, Tir Thuin is also new, which is this town just here. That didn't exist before either. And there's also a few new forts dotted around in Dunland. You've got a couple of forts dotted around as well. So there's quite a few map changes since 0.52 to take note of. So it is a little different than it was before. So then on to tips and difficulty. Well, if you want to make the game totally easy, then just rush the Misty Mountains. Gather those 3 generals. Take some units if you want. It's not all that important. The generals will do it. And just take Goblin Town. Take Goblin down straight away, and you've basically beaten the Misty Mountains. If you want it to be a little harder, then do try and turtle. Just try and beat them to Ostin Ethil, or try and beat them to Anon Enorod, and then try and hold a bit. It's rare that I'm giving tips about how to make the campaign harder, but it really is easy. I'm sorry for those of you who do find it hard, but I just don't buy into that. I cannot see how this campaign is hard. I can sympathise with you that you might struggle with the money management, but there's not a single point when you're playing as Imladris where you ever feel like you're going to lose. Whereas a great many people have actually lost with Angmar before. Myself included, potentially. So it's not that difficult. It really isn't. Your generals' units are so overpowered. Just use them is the key there. Just use them. But so that concludes the campaign side, I believe. Let's move on to the battle map. I shall see you in just a moment. Welcome to the battle map side. So here we are with Imladris' roster. Now, do ignore these 5 here. The last 2 I've used just for to show you the upgraded look of the Rangers, and the pikemen I just used just to fill out the roster, because Imladris are one of the few where I don't actually have enough to fill the roster. So this is Imladris' pure roster. There are a few wider ones. I'll talk about those at the end. So, first of all, when you quick glance over Imladris, the first thing you'll notice is how absolutely little choice you have before the barracks event. This large gap down the middle here represents the barracks event. So before that, Imladris' actual units are 3. The 2 units of Quendi and the Tulkas Faithful. However, in reality, this is actually a little bit different, because both units of the Dunedain Scouts and Dunedain Wardens both come before the barracks event as well, thus taking you up to 5 there. And additionally, the Imladris Rangers, are actually available before the barracks event. They're only available from Imladris. And if my memory serves, they're available before the barracks event, only in very limited numbers. And then after the barracks event, a lot more. They are AOR, but we'll get onto that in a moment. So, in the beginning of the game, there's very little different from this roster than there was from the 0.52 roster, but there is some difference, and we'll talk about that. But we'll start at the very beginning, of course, with the originals. There's the Sword Quendi. That is Imladris' basic unit, and it is unbelievable. 16 total defense for their essentially militia levy level units. Quendi are good. No 2 ways around it. This is why, again, I say, if you're struggling as Imladris, you're doing something wrong. Supporting them are, of course, their archer counterpart, the Bow Quendi. It's important to, well, not important, but interesting, you might be to know that Quendi just means elf. And it's kind of the name for all elven kind, in the same way that we say mankind to mean all men. Quendi just kind of means all elves. So Bow Quendi is maybe a bit too grandiose, really. It should be a more singular form, to be honest. But the Quendi, therefore, are then split into Mori Quendi, Dark Elves, and I think, is it Lai Quendi, Green Elves, and anyway, there's a lot of different names, but Quendi itself essentially just means elves. So Bow Elves and Sword Elves. But supporting them is a unit from DaC. I can't remember if they're in 4.52 or not, but they are the Tulkas' Faithful. And Tulkas' Faithful are a nice little interesting unit who are effective against armour despite having a big 2-handed sword, and that's partially because Imladris doesn't really have anyone that is, save for, I believe, the Smiths. So the Tulkas' Faithful perform that role for most of the game for you, because the Smiths are really rare. And they can hide anywhere, as you can see. They're currently hiding there. They're your early game shock unit, and they're a very, very good shock unit. Effective against armor with an outrageous attack, a solid defense. They can hide anywhere. They're really powerful. And as with all elves, their morale is quite good. It's normally not as good as the dwarves, but it's still good. So do bear that in mind. And these are all the units you get before the barracks events. Do remember that. So then the barracks event will kick in, and then you come to your units after the barracks event. And the first one you're going to get is the Noriterno Warrior. Now, the Noriterno Warrior is kind of a do both. It is an archer, but it's also a really dependable mainstream soldier. So once they've run out of arrows with their very, very laudable 9 missile attack, they can then follow that up with a 9 melee and a 19 total defense. So very, very useful indeed. Don't read anything about stakes. That's all changing. But they're just solid, dependable, middle of the range units. For the elves, at least, anyway. And they are supported by some Noriterno cavalry. Now, the Noriterno cavalry don't fire bows. They are just straight-up cavalry. And with the release or the removal of the Dunedain cavalry and change to Dunedain scouts, they're your first proper cavalry outside of your bodyguard. So they are very useful, and they should form. You should get a couple of them to run down routing enemies, which will happen a lot. Supporting them as well, as I say, and if they're not available before the barracks event, they're certainly available after it, and only available in Imladris itself are the Imladris Rangers. And Imladris Rangers are phenomenally useful archer cavalry. As you can see, they've got a bow, and they're on a horse. They're very, very, very useful, and they are quite pricey, and their upkeep's quite high, but they are still very, very useful, and very wise to get a hold of those. And whilst we're just covering those, I can just show you what they look like when you upgrade them at a blacksmith. They upgrade to look like the rest of your army, and something of a hearkening to the Hobbit movie. So we bowed to peer pressure there, or bowed to pressure. And as you can see, Misdeed has taken the upgraded unit card to use rather than the downgraded version. So then we come to the most iconic units that there are, the 4 Eldarinway, and there are an Eldarinway sword, spear, archer, and lancer, cav, sword, spear, and bow. We'll start with the archer. Eldarinway are, of course, untouched from the base game. This is what they looked like when they were created by whoever created them. I think it's Louis Lux or one of those, someone anyway. And they have the golden armor that we see in the War of the Last Alliance from the movies, and they're just really good. I mean, I'm not really going to go through the stats. They're just really good. They can't run away is something to note, but for detailed stats of these, do check the other older video because it covers them in detail. But they're just really solid. They're excellent elite units, really good elite units. There's their spear counterpart. Again, very good. Again, can't run away. Again, really good stats. Taking a look through those. I mean, they're really up there. They're really pushing the bounds. Even with Dwarven level defensive stats, they're really good. High attack, high charge for the Swordman as well. Solid 26 defense. Again, they can't run away. The notion of that, if you haven't seen any other of these videos, is that you have to tell them to retreat. They will never break on their own. And if you have used up all your movement points and are fighting, it means they will fight to the death if you are going to lose, and they will die. So you do have to be a bit more careful if you're running away. And of course, the final one are the Lancers. And the Lancers are incredibly good cavalry. And I believe that these are the ones that Glorfindel spawns with. It's either these or it's the ones behind. But that's what we'll need to talk about in just a moment. The Eldarinway Lancers used to be the best that you could get, but times have changed. And the introduction of 1.2, or I believe version 1, possibly in 0.52, I can't remember, but came the Imladris Riders. And Imladris Riders are even better versions of the Lancers. So the Lancers are a 12, 15, 30, and the Riders are 15, 18, 32. So better overall, but these ones are only available in Imladris, and they are purely here really to have the look of the elves from The Hobbit. Again, they cannot run away. Again, they've got excellent morale. They really are just a nod to the movie and a nice little addition to Imladris' already reasonably cavalry-heavy roster. But there are rarer, so the Eldarinway Lancers would form the bulk of your army, and then you'd have one or two of these really leading, which is why they inspire troops, and the Eldarinway do not. But also supporting them at this Uber tier are 2 more AORs. Unfortunately, your entire Uber tier is AOR, which means Area of Recruitment. They can only be located in one place. And for 2 of these units, the Cavalry and the Pikes, it's Imladris, and the Eregion Smiths come from Eregion. But we'll deal with the Pikes first. Imladris Guards are another new one. And they are, as I said, they're possibly the best pikemen in the game. They again inspire troops. They are solid pikemen. Again, they cannot run away. Their defense is 27 on a pike unit. That's unreal. Basically, if you can get a unit of these, I can't think of a single unit in the game that could stop them, save for perhaps if you've gone to war with Lyndon and they bring the Mithlon nobles out. Otherwise, one unit of these, I daren't think about how much damage they could do to an army of Snugger. But the pikes are really good. Pikes are always good, and Imladris pikes are even better. And finally, you have the Smiths of Eregion. Note, it is a hard G. It's not Eregion, it's Eregion. Just a side little bit of Sindarian for you. They as well are untouched from the base game in terms of how they look. That's what they look like in Third Age, because we're not allowed to edit them. They are arguably one of your best units. Those and the pikemen together would form an army that no one would be able to stop. They're effective against armor. Their own armor is very high. Their attack is 18, even with the effective. Again, they cannot run away, but unfortunately, again, they're locked to Eregion only, making them quite rare. Now, and finally, you have your 2 bodyguards. So, you've got the Eldarinway nobles to start with, because they're your proper unique generals, and they are just your standard general. Everyone that you adopt will have an Eldarinway nobles bodyguard. As I've already said, they're really good. They look pretty cool. And those are their stats. They as well have locked morale. And then finally, the Noldorin Guard. Now, the Noldorin Guard look like this before they are upgraded. So the unit card is what they look like when they upgrade. But this look is what the 2 twins have. To get them to upgrade, you need to rebuild the Gwaith Myrdain, the Smith Guild in Eregion. So Elrond has the upgraded version looking like that, and the twins have this lower version looking more rangery. Not only the Noldorin Guard your best melee, second best melee because they're not effective against armor, which adds a lot to the 18 attack of the Smiths, but taking away effective against armor, they're your best melee, they're your best missile, their defense, I believe, is unmatched by any other unit save for the Smiths. They can also hide anywhere. They are just all-round amazing troops. There is not a single thing wrong with them, and their morale is unwavering and locked. Essentially, these guys are basically... The only way I could describe a unit that could be this strong would be to suggest that maybe these gentlemen were with Fëanor at the Kinslaying, crossed the Great Sea, landed in Beleriand, fought through every single war of Beleriand, and then opted to stay on in Lindon and eventually then moved to Imladris. That's the only way these units could be this good. They must have survived that much. So they are outrageously good. But you only get 3 of those, and of course you can't train them. So there are downsides. There are always downsides. But the army that we're up against is pretty damn big. So as usual, we'll let the AI take over. Unfortunately, as ever, our general is actually the worst unit on the team. The Sword Quendi, so he's likely to die. But there is a standard elven captain. Is it a captain or a general? Yeah, it's a captain, isn't it? Because we don't have any generals. So that's a standard elven captain. And those are the captains that you tend to get down the sides as well. Or that you will get down the sides are the Imladris-looking gentleman with a sword and shield. And that is it. That is the roster of Imladris. So this video has just been a bloody nightmare, hasn't it? Getting the microphone to sound normal and not terrible. Then we get interrupted halfway through and I have to edit that out. So you probably didn't actually hear that. You would have just had a slightly jarring moment in the campaign side of this video. And then I foolishly forgot to remove the Balrog and he crashed the game. So there I am, just warning you all how the Balrog can stress the game's graphics and crash for no reason. Because as you can see, I've got now exactly the same army sans the Balrog, and this time it's working fine. So although I have fought a battle where the Balrog worked in my Khazad-dûm campaign, so I think it's very much that if your computer's struggling to play the game, adding the Balrog will do nothing but make it even worse. So bloody pain in the arse, isn't it? But nevertheless, a force of Angmar and a force of the Misty Mountains converges on the forces of Imladris. Let's speed it up. Imladris Rangers have already moved in. I've given everything over to the AI, so it's all up to them.
The feat seems almost
there is a huge number of troops in the game, and I got the little warning telling me that it might not run smoothly because I'm using too many units. This is our actual general. There he is, our captain in the gold armor, about to take on some trolls because he's a madman. Oh, and over on the other side, the catapults of the... is that the Misty Mountains? No, that's Angmar. Angmar with their troll catapults, their pikemen of Rudaur, the Gundabad Guard making their way in. Oh, Elder Rinway. Every Elder Rinway life lost is a bitter drop to swallow. Got some riders there not doing anything. They're just undecided about which army to take on, aren't they? There's some pikemen there going up against wargs. The warg skirmishers have killed none of the guard and are just getting slaughtered. The pikes in action. But I don't think we'll watch too much more as it's taking them too long to engage, really. Oh, there's a steady battle line there. Shame there's no archers in it. Oh, the smiths are about to be blindsided by some trolls. No. Part of me feels guilty about the bloody Balrog crashing the game, but I'm continuing nevertheless. Oh, our elves have met the enemy there. The Elder Rinway spearmen rush in, taking on the forces of the Misty Mountains. Oh, this side is Angmar. Oh, it's, yeah, Hummingbird at the moment. We're in talks of, we're not in talks, but we will. Rudaur are no longer going to be available for the Misty Mountains in version 2.0. So that's why I was just thought that the other side must be Angmar, because I thought we'd already done the change, but not yet. Cave trolls fighting against the smiths. Now the smiths are actually incredibly good against trolls. The trolls, I'll be very surprised if they don't die quickly, and if they even take any enemies down with them. Oh, that's another crushing strike with a catapult. Oh, some smiths are down. The two captains with the army are down. But I will leave that there. No, I thought I'd just done it. I thought I'd done one video where a captain didn't die, but no, he's dead. He's dead, so now we can safely save. So I do hope you've enjoyed this one. Feedback on the microphone now that I finally got it to work properly is most welcome. I personally think it's a big improvement over the last one. It doesn't spike when I talk louder, as you may notice. It's just a lot better on that. And also, I actually have a genuine pop filter because they're very cheap. So why would you not use them? But I don't personally see any difference between this and not using the pop filter. But there we are, by the by. It's all fun and games, and YouTube... it's nice to have a little hobby you can actually put time and effort into. So anywho, so thank you very much for watching. I will, as I say, mention the Patreon thing at the start of the next 4 videos, and then I won't speak of it. It'll go into the description. And what else was I going to say? Oh, no, that was it. So do stay tuned for the following videos this week, episode 16 of each campaign. I'll try and do the Gondor ones a little bit longer, because as someone's pointed out, the Gondor one is likely to be the longest one, so I should probably try and speed up the episodes a bit. But until we speak again, dear friends, Navarna den Penimad Melonin, and farewell.